Berachot Perek Dalid Mishnah Aleph. This is actually a really, really important Mishnah, if only because it's basically the first Mishnah any young child learns. But it's also, it's such an important window into the world of Mishnayot, into the world of understanding how Chazal work, and into understanding what Mishnah is really all about. So the Kahati gives a long explanation, and he quotes mainly from the Hilchot Tefillah of the Rambam. You'll notice that, just as we learned with when we started the beginning of Berachot, Tefillat HaShachar, Kriyat Shema, nobody says, okay, you have to say Kriyat Shema, and what Kriyat Shema is, and how important it is. All of that is fundamental to what it means to be a Jew, and what it means to understand Kriyat Shema, but Chazal understood that you knew it. They assumed that you understood what all these things were all about. And therefore, they're only going to talk to you about the details, mostly about the details in the Mishnah, that are under dispute, that are matters of debate. So the same thing is true about Shacharit as well. We're going to see the minutiae, the issues that are being discussed according to Chazal are the things under debate. When, how often, how much, etc., etc. But what is the essence of Tefillah? So in order to understand the essence of Tefillah, we need to really look for a few minutes at the Rambam, Hilchot Tefillah. So we'll read a little bit of it, but it's really, really important to understand. Now remember, we learned in previous Mishnayot, the Rambam held that it's a mitzvat aseh litpalel b'chol yom. It's a mitzvat aseh to daven every day. Shne'emar va'avadetem et Hashem Elokechem. You have to do avodah. You have to worship God. You have to serve God. What does this mean? Mipmi Shmuel lamdu she'avodah zo hi tefillah. Shne'emar v'ne'emar ula'avdo b'chol levavchem. What is this avodah? It's tefillah. Amru Chachamim, said the sages, Ezehi avodah shabalev. What is this avodah ula'avdo b'chol levavchem? To worship your heart, God in your heart. Zohi tefillah. So you have to daven. So how much do you have to daven? When do you have to daven? Says the Rambam, Ve'ein minyana tefilot min Torah, v'lo mishnah tefillah azot min Torah. Okay, Ve'ein letefillah zman kavua min Torah. The Torah never tells you how often to daven, what to say, and specifically as when to say it. It's not set. You serve God. For this reason, Rambam says, women and servants are chayav v'vishu mitzvat aseh shelo azman grama. Sure, we do it during the day at specific times, but daven whenever you want. Daven today, daven the night. Okay? And it's important, the Rambam says it's what's called avodah shebalev, service of the heart. It's not just that you say the words. You become so formulaic when it comes to our tefillah. But rather it's avodah shebalev, worship of the heart. And we're going to see this in subsequent Mishnayot. And Rambam, you can read it on your own. I really recommend it. The rest of Hilchot Tefillah, he goes into much greater detail about what it is that a person should do. Yeah, I just have to read it because it's so important to understanding what Tefillah is. Ela chiyav mitzvah zo, sheyehe adam mitpalel umitchanen b'chol yom. A person should pray and plead every day. Umagid shvacho shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and say the praise of God. V'achar kach shoel tzrachav, shehu tzarich lem, and then ask for what he needs. B'vakasha b'tchina, with asking and pleading. And then you give thanks to God. So therefore, the davening it should be avodah shebalev. First you say to God, God, you're the greatest. Shevach. And we start Shemona Esrei this way. And then you ask for what you need, and that's all the middle stuff, and then you say Hoda'ah at the end. Okay? Okay? And the Rambam concludes and says that the tefillah that we have today was established by the Anshe Knesset HaGadolah because people didn't really know how to say it enough. They didn't really know how to daven appropriately. They weren't aware of the appropriate way to daven, the appropriate way to pray. So therefore, Chazal gave us a specific structure. But the ideal form of prayer is prayer of the heart, reaching out to God, searching out God. It's really important to have an awareness of this before we even talk about what Tefillat HaShachar is and when we say it, etc., etc. Okay. Back to our official Mishnah. We've already spoken long enough. This is a Mishnah Yomit class, but nonetheless, I really feel it's important to have that sense because Chazal took it for granted. They understood that you understood this when you were talking about Tefillah, when we're studying about Tefillah. Says the Mishnah, Tefillat HaShachar. So the Tefillah of the morning. Also, the Gemara pulls apart. How do we know this Tefillat HaShachar? How do we know Tefillat Mincha? How do we know Tefillat Erev? So the Gemara talks about the idea that there is a machloket. Is it Keneged Avot? Versus the Avot, Shacharit, Mincha, and Mariv. Abraham did Shacharit, Yitzchak Mincha, and Arvit was Yaakov, or Keneged Midim Tiknu. You can learn it, the Gemara talks about it in greater detail. Says the Mishnah, Tefillat HaShachar ad Chatzot. So what is Tefillat HaShachar? When do you have to say it? until chatzot. The latest time to say it is until midday. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad arba sha'ot. Rabbi Yehuda says no, until 4 hours into the day. Remember, we're talking about Tefillot sha'ot zmaniyot, time, sense-related hours. Okay, so in our classic time, we start at 6 a.m. I got to make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, we start at 6 a.m. This is the first hour, and so 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and it ends at 6 p.m., the end of the 12th hour. Okay, so 6 o'clock, the first hour, so Rabbi Yehuda says, the Tanna Kama says, until chatzot, until halfway through the day. It's not 12 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock only in our classic day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but it's really from sunrise to sunset. These are not hours, these are sha'ot zmaniyot, time-related hours. And Yehuda says until 4 hours, until 10 o'clock on our perfect day, but until 4 hours. Back to our Mishnah. Tefillat mincha ad ha'erev. Mincha, so it's interesting, by the way, you'll notice that the Mishnah doesn't tell you when the beginning is. So shacharit is from sunrise. That's the earliest time. That's what the Vatikin, remember, were very meticulous to finish Shema imanei tzachama so that they could be somer geula l'tefillah. They could connect geula, Berachot Gal Yisrael, right to tefillah. So from sunrise until chatzot, Rabbi Yehuda says until 4 hours into the day. Tefillat mincha, davening mincha, ad ha'erev, until evening, until sunset. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad plag mincha. So in order to understand this, we have to go back to our hour chart. In our chart, in order to understand this, so we have chatzot is midday. Mincha is not from the midday, from chatzot, rather, it's from the time, the earliest time that they could have brought the korban tamid shel bein ha'arbayim, the afternoon korban, in the Beit HaMikdash. And that was from what's called mincha gedolah. Mincha gedolah is 6.5 hours into the day, 6.5 time-related hours into the day, time-bound hours, which is 12:30 on a perfect day. That's when mincha begins, from mincha gedolah, and all the way until ha'erev, until not 12 o'clock, until the 12th hour, until 6 p.m. on our perfect day. Okay? And Rabbi Yehuda says, let's go back here. Rabbi Yehuda says until plag mincha. What is plag mincha? So there was a time called mincha ketana. Mincha ketana is 9.5 hours into the day. And that was divided into two separate plag minchas. Plag in Aramaic means half. Okay? So the first plag mincha was half of mincha ketana, half of 9.5 until 12. Half of that is from 15:30, we're in Israel now, from 3:30 in the afternoon until 4:45. That's half. Each one is an hour and 15 minutes. Let's go back and do the math again. We have mincha ketana is at 9.5 hours. That leaves us a space of 2.5 hours left. So plag, half of 2.5 hours, 1.25 hours. So each plag mincha, you have first plag mincha, and then you have second plag mincha. So Rabbi Yehuda says until plag mincha. And according to the Gemara explains in great detail that Rabbi Yehuda was talking about the end of the first plag mincha. So Rabbi Yehuda says you have until 16:45 in America. That would be 4:45 in the afternoon. Okay, that according to him on their perfect day, that would be when plag mincha is according to Rabbi Yehuda. Now this plag mincha is critical. It's critical to know because normally we paskin like the Tanna Kama. You have tefillat mincha until the evening, but there are always ramifications. There's possibilities for davening plag mincha. You might have heard that term. When is plag mincha? Why do you have plag mincha? Because plag mincha, if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda, you could daven mincha until plag mincha, and then erev, evening, begins right afterwards. You can start davening mariv after plag mincha is over, because according to him, tefillat hamincha is until erev, until evening. Erev isn't night, it's the evening. So this has ramifications. In my old shul in Detroit, plag mincha, we paskin during the summertime, since, thanks to Henry Ford, he decided that Detroit had to be in the Eastern time zone. Sadly, it's also 600 miles to the west, so therefore sunset is incredibly late. So in the summer months, we davened in shul based on plag mincha. We would daven mincha before plag mincha, like Rabbi Yehuda, until plag mincha. We paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. And then we would daven mariv, because if Rabbi Yehuda says you can daven mincha until plag mincha, so then tefillat erev, evening, is right after plag mincha, arvit. Let's go on. There's a lot more to this. It's very complicated, but I'm giving you the basics. Tefillat erev, ein la keva. Evening has no set time. It's not kavua. We learned about Kriyat Shema, But the tefillah, the davening of Arvit, in la keva, is not no set time, but obviously you're supposed to daven Arvit as soon as you can, earliest possible time. V'shalom musafim kol hayom, and musaf you have all day, on the day that there's a musaf. Rabbi Yehuda omer ad sheva shaot. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's not kol hayom, it's only until 7 hours. So just to wrap up, there's a long Mishnah. Shacharit, the Tanna Kama says until chatzot. Rabbi Yehuda says until 4 hours. Here we have on our chart. Mincha, until the evening, according to the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Yehuda says until plag mincha. Musaf, we learned you have all day, according to the Tanna Kama. 7 hours, according to Rabbi Yehuda. And Arvit, you have all day. I want to dedicate the learning today in memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me, rspalter@gmail.com. Have a great day.